and I don't have an agenda, everyone. I just thought it would be a good idea to touch base with Pete on here and Ronnie. I have talked and been in contact with some families, some parents and 22 guys. And I know Pete has done the same, Ron. So it felt to me like it might be a little bit scattered. And I don't know if I'm getting the wrong sense, but obviously it's crazy. We talked a while ago. I think we talked about strategies, and it seems to me like the guys are doing what they're supposed to be doing. They're reaching out to schools, or emailing, sending film, hopefully updating transcript, and also sending fresh film from the fall. So I would just say a couple things. I don't think, and Ron can chime in from a college coach's perspective, but I don't, I think with good judgment, I don't think you're inundating schools. I think they're getting a lot of emails. So try to put something out there that makes it specific or special to them, so it catches their eye. But I've followed up for numerous guys on the 22 team after you've sent film, after you've sent email, and I constantly hear from the coaches, yeah, can you send me their film? Like they haven't seen it. So I just think guys are really busy, and the recruiting world has changed, and it's all virtual. It's all done on film, except for the Division III guys. So it's a different world. But I also think it's slow for some people because schools don't know what their classes are looking like. They're still trying to figure out, again, who's taking a fifth year. They're going to find out who's in the transfer portal, after the season. Hopefully, if we have a season, which is looking good, hopefully. So there's a lot of different factors that the 22s, the 23s, and quite frankly, the 24s are going to be dealing with. So I just wanted to, Ron, I don't know if you have anything to add, or Pete, but if you do, I would chime in, and then maybe we can just open it up to some questions, do some question and answers.
Yeah, the one comment I would have, and same thing with reaching out to coaches and getting them to watch film. I've been sending out the updated Mesa, Big Four, Triple H, whatever they're called, scrimmage or game that we had with the NLF getting canceled. And the hard part is a lot of guys are all on lists, but it's coaches. I think at this point, like I said, are they've grabbed the guys that have all jumped off the screen. And that's the guys that they have quickly jumped to. But now, as they're getting into, a lot of kids, in that group have committed. Now they're getting to like, all right, who do I want to get to? Who do I have to go to? I'm getting a lot of like, I like him. He looks good. But like coaches, I think are a little weary when they're getting there of like, are my eyes lying to me? Is film, not showing me everything and whatnot. So, I mean, it's been, obviously very difficult on the college coaches. It's definitely been, more difficult on us, as well, trying to, find the new way and the best way to sell, guys and everything. So that's been the challenge. I know, with the commitments and everything, and this is kind of why we wanted to do a question and answer and get in front of everybody, to make sure that you guys feel comfortable with, whether it be the schools that you're looking at, have you heard back? It always helps me knowing kind of like where you've been, what connections you've had, whether it be through email, calls, which allows me and coach and Pete to, to kind of follow up as well. So that's kind of where I've been. And obviously Pete, you can chime in as well too.
Yeah. And I had a bunch of calls today, and it seems just like how everyone is this year. Everyone's a little lost. I mean, finding guys on film is very tough. Maybe one or two guys per game will really, like Ron said, jump off the screen, and everyone else is just, it's tough not to tell like what that player is and without being in person. It seems like it's a very dead period right now. Like there's not a lot going on, and there's a lot of film out there, so people are rewatching stuff. And it's almost just, it's very good to contact schools just to get your name out there. So maybe they can try to focus on you. But from what I'm mostly hearing is a lot of this coaches want to see people in person. So like Ron said, their eyes aren't lying to them. But there's a couple schools that seem like they're close to being finished with their classes, but most schools have a ton of spots. And it's almost just like a wait and see. And this year is a weird year. It's going to be a weird couple of years for recruiting classes, especially with the transfer portal. But my advice is just kind of keep a wide net, contact any school you'd be interested in, and just kind of stay patient. I know it's tough, especially with some other guys going off the board, but there are a lot of options out there, both Division I, Division III. There's a lot going on. So it's tough to hear, but my best advice would be just stay patient and just keep doing what everyone's doing.
So I would just open it up to the boys or to the parents. I'm sure there's got to be questions, and I'm sure some of the things that are going on are, and there's some great things going on too, with this team. So that's wonderful. But you're probably, most of you could be kind of, climbing up the same ladder. So any thoughts or any questions or anything, I would just fire away, and we'll do our best to either, to answer that and support you. The other thing too, just through this dialogue, it will help us kind of find out where you guys are. And then, you can follow up too with a separate email. But again, I've had probably 5 or 6 families that I've had communication with the boys, and or the parents, and then I'm copied in on the emails and the communications. So that's been helpful. But we want to make sure that Mesa is doing, everything we can to support all of you.
Hey, Nody, this is Blakely. I've got a quick question. So it sounds to me like if someone's contacting our kids or boy or son, is that something we should just be communicating with you on? If someone reaches out, do you keep track of it, or should we just keep track of it ourselves? Or
no, I mean, it would be helpful for us to know. So, we just kind of keep a log. I just have a binder to keep it straight, just because, or a notepad. But yeah, anytime, I think the more of us that kind of know what those communications are and what those, are they, you may have questions about what they mean too, right? There's all different levels of communication. So yeah, anytime you get that would be helpful.
And Blakely, I'd say that'd definitely be helpful just to share with all of us, just so we know we're all on the same page of who's contacting who. So I'd say definitely let us know.
great. All right. I'm going to tell Bo to basically kind of keep track of it and tell you guys. Thanks.
And again, a lot of the guys have been doing that. They've been corresponding, either blind copying or copying or texting and copying me in on it. So that's been helpful.
Coach, to your comment of, I sent the video, I didn't watch the video, can you resend it to me? How much correspondence is too much correspondence?
I let Ronnie has really good relationships with a lot of his contemporaries are at schools that all you guys are looking at. So he's probably got his hand on the pulse of that more than me. But I think, I don't even, Ronnie, what do you think?
Yeah, it's finding a happy balance. Obviously, I never, in a large way, like there's no, you're interested in school and you want that school to get interested in you. So like in a way, it's, a ton is not negative. But I do think, like some coaches always, guys for me that I get, weekly or, like I start to get a lot of emails regularly. You just always kind of have that feeling. You're like, all right, how many schools is this all going out to? So like, it's fine to kind of send them out. But at the same time, it's that little bit like, all right, is Jimmy sending, an email to us, or is he sending an email, to 20 schools, 30 schools, weekly? So like I said, I never think it's necessarily fully a bad thing, but if you can make them, and that's always been my, thing is if you can make it some sort of personal email to where even if it's just one or two things that are changed in a generic email to say, hey, I was really excited watching the Penn State football game finally get their first win, go State. It just makes it like a little bit different where you're like, all right, that at least seems like you wrote that to me, as opposed to, I have a blank sheet that, then just copied in, 20 or 30, coaches' emails and whatnot. Now, again, like I said, that is never, I don't look at it as a bad thing, you know what I mean? Because I think for most coaches, I know for us, Division Is tend to be a little bit different, but it's kind of the same thing. If a coach says, hey, I really like so-and-so, they're going to kind of look through their email to see, have we gotten anything from him? Do we have a contact information? Do we have a highlight film? Do we have a transcript? That's always the way I've kind of gone about it, as opposed to like just going, all right, I watched a guy at X camp or on a film and whatnot. They then backtrack through their emails. All right, what information do I already have on my phone, basically, that I can find, as opposed to then having to try to connect with Pete to then connect with a cell phone to connect with all these different things, if that makes sense.
And I would say too, Gills, that like if what I've been doing, and I'm just telling you, I'm frustrated. I don't have a child in the game anymore. Thank God when I was a dad, they were like burbling when they were 14 and hadn't played a single minute of high school lacrosse. But so I have a pretty good sense of even, Patrick, but if I'm not hearing things back from a couple schools, so what I will do, if you guys haven't heard from, say, your top 3 or 4 schools, it might be time for us, and this is kind of everybody, like, Nody, can you pick up the phone and call and just find out if they're done, or if they're or do they have any more spots at, or what does their class look like, so we can just get ourselves, so we can check that box and move on. And I can tell you, I've never been more frustrated. And a lot of these guys are, contemporaries, but I think it's a lot, there has been a lot of off-field. They have Zoom fatigue too, and I just know some specific programs that there's just a lot of stuff going on in these programs, and I think these guys are scattered. Not to make excuses for them, but the communication, at least with me, I've had to be a nudge myself, which I don't like to be. But I would say open that line of communication, because Ron may know, someone at Georgetown or wherever, Fairfield or Marist, or better than me. So if I'm not having any luck, I can have Ronnie reach out or Pete reach out. Timmy has a lot of connections too. So this is a joint effort. And again, one of the reasons I like to touch base with everyone is so we can re-strategize, and I can reinforce to you that it's not, you're not bugging us, right, by saying, hey, can you make a phone call, or can you do this? And a lot of times, again, and I've probably repeated it in other Zooms, but it's a joint communication with the Malvern guys. It's Mac and I talking, or, the Hafford guys, it's Brendan. So, and that's very transparent, and it works really well. Because I think the high school coaches obviously are really important in the process as well.
Yeah, I think, and with that, what we're saying is with this hold up, the hardest part is I do think there's, from a lot of coaches, and I at the game against Triple H was talking to Billy McKinney about it as well, their coach, and he's just like, it seems like everyone's in a little bit of a hold, because to be honest, they're waiting to see if they're going to have a spring. So I was even texting my buddy and a couple different guys, like, they don't know what to do with their players come the spring term, on if they're, going to suggest to a couple to take the term off, if they don't have a legit season or a championship type season, they're trying to figure out what they're doing with some of their best players. And this is where it's become really difficult for all, for us, for the college coaches, for everybody, for you guys, because everyone is really trying to figure out what's going on with their current roster, which is usually not the case, right? Like they usually know, all right, this is what I have, this is what I'm anticipating coming in, and now it's like, all right, I'm recruiting the 22 class as the 22 class. not as opposed to like, hey, are my current freshmen possibly going to be like playing during that time and worrying about, roster spots and roster caps and scholarship dollar and all that extra stuff. So, I do think there's a little bit of a holding pattern kind of right now. And I think it hopefully will start to like, set itself. And I think to Pete's point, like a lot of colleges are hoping that they can get to the summer to be able to live scout and recruit and the whole nine. Not that obviously, I mean, that feels like light years away. But I know that's kind of what they're hoping for, if that makes sense.
So question for you guys on the schools that have said, hey, you know what, we like somebody and, really want to kind of wait until the spring to see them live, like we've been talking about. You kind of get the sense that they're just kicking the can down the road a little bit. And I understand that this is a totally different year, but do you guys get the sense that if, a kid was to get an offer or two from other schools, and then to come back to these schools that have said, hey, let's wait till spring and say, all right, well, Johnny has offers from 2 other schools that he's strongly considering. Are they going to get off the schneid a little bit and make some moves? Or do they really mean they're not doing anything till the spring? What do you guys think on that?
I think
the thing that's made this a little more difficult, like I said, with certain commitments and different things for me, is the poaching, recommitments and decommitments, has really put a wrinkle into that, and me and Pete went through it with a couple of guys that have even already committed, where like, hey, they were getting an offer, maybe getting a little pressure and trying to communicate with like, all right, like they have a school that's an option or 2 schools, but 2 or 3 other schools are of high interest. Like, let's see where they're at. And, some of the responses are like, dude, like, they're just like, tell them to commit, and if we like them in June, like, and we get to see them, or at any point, if we like them, like, we'll try and take them, and if he wants to flip, like, great. If he doesn't, then he clearly is at the school that he prefers. So that is what, has kind of made that a little bit difficult. And then, and that's where I've always said, I think I do a good job. I think our group, with Coach Nostra and Pete, do a pretty good job and to try to get you that best answer, because a lot of coaches keep guys, waiting around and they are interested, but you don't know, like, all right, well, how many more polls are they going to take? How many more midfielders? How many more spots, do they have available? Because a lot of times, like, yeah, I'm interested. And with my 20 class, when I was our Mesa team, we had guys that were interested in schools for 6 months. And I'm like, dude, that ship is set, like that is no longer, an option, and trying to get those answers to where, if you can let us know, like going full circle of schools that have reached out, hey, I got an email, I got a phone call, I talked to the assistant, the head coach, like that gives us a much better feel for, what is that interest level. Then we can follow up on like, hey, where are you exactly? So, people aren't spinning their wheels, hopefully as much, going after school based off of a blast email from them, or, a phone call on February, or, on September 1 that maybe now doesn't carry the weight it did September 1, or whatever that case may be.
And I think it's like anything else, Pat. It's like every coach is different, right? So some guys you talk to and they're like, nope, I'm not going to talk to him if he's, if he's verbal, or if he's, but more and more guys will recruit, we'll recruit guys until it's done. And then sometimes, I think leveraging definitely is helpful. We just want to do it just like we would do it in any other form of business or something like that. You don't want to piss them off or offend them, which I don't think it would. It's just being honest, saying, hey, it looks like we have some interest from here, and they're going to give us a little bit of time, but where are you? So it could definitely help. I think it can, to be valued or to be, on somebody's short list, could definitely work to an advantage, I think.
And Pat, just like based on your point, like it really depends on the situation. Like if you're looking at Army and you're like, Navy gave me an offer, like that time, like those cases really matter. And sometimes they'll be like, okay, we can wait around. If they commit somewhere else, we'll swing back. I mean, I was kind of surprised how honest a few coaches I talked to were saying that they will recruit kids that are already committed in the spring and summer once they get to see them in person. But it really depends on the program. Some will feel threatened if you have another offer and think they have to strike now. Some will give it time and see if they can circle back. So I think it really depends on the coaching staff and the program. But I think we'll see a lot of both.
Great. Thanks, guys.
Anything else that comes to mind, or if there's
Yeah, I have a question about if you're hearing anything, this idea about seeing kids live, and we're hearing, different things from different coaches about visits and what's allowed and what's not allowed. And if the ability to play more is in question, or any coaches talking about ways around that, either, smaller workouts or things like that to help offset it. And I guess the second question is, are you hearing anything about changes or adjustments to the admissions process? Because I know last year they did some things with the standardized testing and so forth. And if there's any themes around those two areas. Thanks.
You want me to go? Yeah, I think, the visits and stuff, it seems like it's school to school, with the way that they're doing it. I mean, it has been amazing. I know some schools, like they're Zooming with the coaches and then driving around campus, either doing a regular admissions visit or, just kind of like walking around campus themselves. Some places are able to walk kids around and do, and have normal visits, or, close to normal, where they're meeting in the stands and being able to sit further away as opposed to sitting in an office and things of that nature. So, trying to, get on campuses and whatnot it's still ideal. I still think it's a great thing to be able to get a feel for, where you might want to go and different things. I also think, being able to say to a coach that you are coming down, to his school, if it's a major school of interest, obviously shows an extra level of interest, that you're willing to obviously take the time out of your day to go to a school, depending on whether it's, down the road driving into the city to go visit Drexel that's even 20 minutes away, or going hours away. Obviously shows a much different interest level, which is always great. And then, I mean, on the admission side, I think every school does have it a little different. They obviously are, they are cognizant of the fact that SATs are becoming, and ACTs are becoming harder to take. People are still trying to figure out, are they going to do them at, the individual high schools? Are they going to do them online? Where is everyone going to stand? But I think that, they are, kind of more, some of them are just kind of like, hey, we're going to go a little bit test optional with that class and just kind of go off of the transcripts, go off of the extracurriculars, go off of kind of the different things that sets that student apart, on that end. So I haven't gotten a specific answer, even in the Ivies, it seems like they're all doing it a little bit different. It's not kind of like a conference consensus on how they're going about it, or where they're like putting their weight, if you will, on his extracurriculars. Is it the GPA? Is it, the types of classes you're taking, things of that nature, to where it is a little bit more, I think, school to school that I've heard.
I do think too, and again, there's different scenarios that I think COVID has helped, but certainly in more areas, quite frankly, that it's hurt. The high school guys. But if you're a really good student and and money's not a big deal, like what I found, at least last year when COVID started, like people were looking for guys to fill spots, and it just seems to me like whether it's because of online learning and stuff, that they're, colleges are looking for full pay, smart kids, right? And they want to get kids on campus. They got to pay their bills. And I found that, I had a kid at Gilman that man, he rolled the dice, and I might have said this, so forgive me if I did, but he's very, a nice player, but and I think probably can play at where he ended up, but it was a top 5 to 8 school, and he was it was April, and they came knocking, and they weren't alone. There was a lot of that. I don't know if that was just a phenomenon last spring or if that's going to continue, but I guess the theme of that too, not to babble, is you got to also, that's important to the guys that are on there. And I know the parents know, like, if we can in this moment stay worried about the controllables, academics, right? And I think a lot of the test scores, you may be SAT optional, but bigger, stronger, faster, staying healthy, working on staying on top of the schoolwork, and just staying on top of the effective communication to the schools are all going to be bonuses.
Yeah, that's one of the first questions I get from every coach I talk to. They're like, how is he academically? How's the family situation? Are they scholarship kids or not? Because they have to, all the schools, they have to even out their GPA and SATs. So something, if they have the high academics, that kind of will push them ahead of another player. If they're the same type of athlete, that'll definitely push them ahead. So every kid on the team I talk to, I'm just like, make sure you're staying on top of your work, like have a very strong, whatever it's their quarters, trimester, semesters, like make sure we finish strong this fall and winter, because that might open doors that were previously closed. So that's really important for all of these guys.
We're available, so I don't know if they're, feel free to ask any more questions while we're still here, but again, just email or text if there's specific things. If and what I'll tell folks, and the people that I've talked to here can reaffirm it, but like I'll have you send me a list or text me a list after we talk, because then I just will have it on file. But again, it's our job to try to help and support you. It's our job to to really try to find answers for you, or to tell you that we can't find any answers or we haven't heard anything back. But we're an asset that I want you guys to feel comfortable using. And I love this team. This team reminds me of my 17 team. They're a little more talented. But I think sometimes it's funny with Mesa, and we've been blessed to have such good coaches and good instruction and skills and development. And I know there's some dads on here, some guys on here that have had brothers play, but it's like Mesa's not really sexy, and we play the right way. We play really good team defense. We share the ball, and it's not typical for club lacrosse, in my opinion. For the most part, it's still, when you're playing in the fall, the ball's going all over the place. But I think we play the right way, and sometimes that has a tendency to hurt the individual. But I don't know how we would do it any differently, because I think the reputation of Mesa is very, very, very good. But I think the kids are playing the right way. They're working hard. They're doing things on their own. I mean, I don't want to lump all of your boys into the same thing, but these guys, they eat, drink, and sleep it, pretty good, better than any of our Mesa teams, right? So we want good things to happen for you guys, and I know they will. But I know this process is tedious and a lot of times exasperating. So you just got to kind of keep the faith. And again, I think the key thing is effectively communicating with us and with the schools and the coaches, and letting us know, what we can do. And we owe you that same communication back, and we're glad to do that. So.
Yeah, I would even leave in, even just the last 2 years for me, seeing it with I coached the 20 team, and then, having watched with the 21s, there's always the guys that go early, and then always, the guys that, that go late. And, from my knowledge with all of our Mesa guys, with, the ability to help the kids playing really good high school lacrosse, being able to have a lot of multiple people help selling them, and just even guys, iron sharpening iron and getting better. I've been amazed at how, guys continue to find homes. And in my 20 class, team, David Graham was a guy that, ended up he's at Ohio State. And I wouldn't have thought that, going into a year before he committed. I will joke, Don Ratora, I was like thinking he was going to commit to us at Cabrini. And then the next thing, he calls me and he goes to Syracuse. And I'm like, you got to be kidding me, and, and it was great for him. And that was the school he wanted, and guys always, like I said, the hard part is, I think a lot of schools will say, we're kind of done, but they always leave, 1 or 2 spots for guys later in the year. And the thing I've used from Ronnie Caputo, the assistant at Duke, and it's the most blunt way to say it, but it's the most correct way to say it. Like, he's always like, every school always has space for better. They always have space for better. And if you continue to work and do all the things, guys always end up finding the right home that's meant for them. I understand this is not an easy process to like stomach and sit through, and, it keeps going and keeps going. It seems, but at the same time, like Coach said, like we are always available, if there is a specific school, and I've talked with a couple guys about it, some schools already, if there's a specific school that you have an interest in that, is pissing you off a little bit with maybe not getting back well, or you haven't heard anything, or you're not sure, like, let us know. And that's where, we are happy to go to work and kind of start, beating down the hatches. Pete's texting me all the time about, hey, can you send me this coach's number, that coach's number, like we try to hit them from all sides. And like Coach's, point, if you feel like there's not enough being done, or you're not sure where everything's going, feel free to give us a call, myself, Coach Nostra and Pete, and which obviously we can let you know. And if there hasn't been as much communication as there should be, it will start immediately for sure.
And the other thing is that there could be things coming up, right, that you're not sure if you should do, right? There's only so much you can do, on tape, so much, so if there's something that you're looking at or that you are not sure about, please ask us and we'll do the best we can to figure it out. And, because there's probably still a couple individual events that, that can happen or might happen. And I think someone might have asked too, like maybe what, I don't know what can happen on college campuses, but hopefully they could start, their assistant coaches are dying on the vine. They're not making any money. I had a ton of college coaches coaching Ascension and Mesa and Maryland because they can coach the little guys. They just can't coach the old guys, but there's no money for them. And so there could be, I think, like I got a text today, Virginia's doing something in the summer, maybe at Woodbury Forest, and it's going to be like an elite 8 team per bracket. So if there could be things with certain schools where they're starting to do something that maybe could act as a prospect day or something like that, hopefully sooner than July, but we'll keep our ears and eyes open for stuff like that. But if there's questions about things that you may want to do or you're not sure about, please don't hesitate to ask us. Open invitation to come to Gilman too. I need some dudes. No offense to anyone. I'm sure you're all happy, but I'm always looking to get an edge. I'm in a big boy league down there with a JV team. So love the boys. They're good kids, but got some growing pains. So, if you've thought about the boarding option, I live in a nice cottage on a pond in Roysterstown, and I'm really good at virtual. I can watch guys while they learn on the computer. They could help me. So we could have a little boarding component down there. So, but it's great. It's great to see everyone. Hope everyone had a great Thanksgiving and you're gearing up for the holiday season, and everybody be safe. Again, we're here for you. We're looking forward. I don't want to keep anyone, but I think skills start this Sunday, and we're trying to change the skills up for the 22s and the 23s, and just let the guys play. Like we'll do a little bit of teaching, but I think they're skilled out. So if they, I think we're going to try to make that a little more kid friendly and fun. It'll still be developmental, but hopefully they'll just be more playing in the winter skills. So it'll give these guys a chance just to have some fun, which they haven't had a whole heck of a lot of lately, or it's been sporadic at best. So that's our goal for the winter, a little different. So, but it's great to see everyone. Petey and Ron, thank you so much, and we'll see everyone hopefully soon.